first, an injury scare for Max Hairston?
Yeah, and we don't know how much of a scare it is. It could be something. It could be nothing. He, at the end of practice, Max Hairston kind of took himself out of a team drill, just walked over to trainers and did not take a rep, and they were talking, and they were looking at what appeared to be maybe the left lower knee area, the lower legs in that area, the mid-range part. And head trainer Nate Bresky, head athletic trainer Nate Bresky and him were talking, and Nate was kind of pointing to something down there and looking, and he was walking, and he never was being helped anywhere. He was walking on his own power, which is good news, but he was explaining something as they walked together, right? When that happened, the horn blew to end practice. It was scheduled horn blow. It wasn't like, okay, Max Hairston's hurt, we're going to end practice, right?
Right?
It was the timing of it. It was literally right at 2:30, I would say, because that's when they ended. And he and they talked for a little while as everybody started coming in, and they came in a little bit after them, but together and walked in together. So what does that mean? We'll find out today as far as if he's out there or not. A lot of times, now I would say this, we could get out there today, they practice at 11. You might not have Max Hairston practicing today. That doesn't mean anything significantly wrong with him. Anybody who's having any issue at all, they're being super precautious with this week, as you guys know. There's a lot of guys out there, a lot of guys who aren't out there on the field practicing who are dealing with something, but Sean McDermott said none of them have any concerns as far as he is concerned with missing any training camp time. That just tells you, hey, something's going on. We don't want to re-aggravate or injure anything. We want everybody ready for camp. So it's possible we don't see Max Hairston today. I think we're going to hear maybe from Brandon Beane after practice. So either way, that'd be a good chance to ask him a little bit about that. But we'll see where this goes, I guess. And, we're going to be waiting on that.
So if Beane's speaking, we would think that if it is something severe or something serious, that we would probably learn about it today?
I would think so, Joe. First of all, if he practices, there's no concern, right?
Right.
Okay, whatever. If he doesn't practice, I'm sure it's one of the first things we're going to ask Brandon Beane, and then we'll see what he says about it.
Okay. In terms of how he's looked, how has he looked to you in these couple of days?
So the athletic traits are definitely there. There's no doubt. I'm going to go back, though, when you say couple days, I'm going to go back to everything I've seen from OTAs, too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yep. OTAs, we're out there for a day each week. There are times where you see the athletic traits, and then he just gets beat. Now, there's times where he gets beat because he got beat. There's times where he gets beat because he's in great position, and someone just makes a catch. And I made a joke yesterday. Tyrell Shavers, it's happened to him twice against Tyrell Shavers. Once a couple weeks ago, once yesterday, where he's in perfect coverage, but Tyrell Shavers catches the ball, and I'm like, Tyrell Shavers he's long, right? And he's an NFL wide receiver. And I think it's the growing pains of a young guy of, okay, I'm in perfect position. What do I got to do to get this ball? What do I got to do to knock the ball away? That doesn't mean he's always getting beat. He makes plays, too. He's in good spots. It is such an advantage. It's tough to talk about this by giving context to listeners when I tell you it's such an advantage to the offense this time of year, right? There's no pads. Nobody's hitting anybody. Guys can make catches kind of knowing they're not going to get hit as they make the catch. Guys who are defending aren't going to be super incredible to be physical because you're not taking you to the ground. Yeah, they can put your hands on you, whatever. So I would say that for me, when I watch DBs this time of year, what I'm looking for is positioning. I'm like, are you in position to make the play? Because once the pads come on, maybe that play gets made, maybe it doesn't. And I think that he's in position sometimes where okay, that's really good. And then maybe the play isn't made. Or maybe it is. That's fine. And there have been also a couple of times where I've seen, here's a couple of things I do notice. When he's done with the rep, a lot of times he comes off, and there's a coach always with him. There's a coach always in his ear talking to him about everything that just happened, which is great. He's a young player. He's not the only one. He also has a football with him at all times on the sidelines. I noticed yesterday, Max Hairston is always carrying a football with him on the sidelines. He's not the only one, but a couple of the DBs, but it is funny. A couple of the younger guys are like that.
If he's going to be, that was a talking point, right, about him coming in as, he might struggle with bigger receivers. Tre'Davious White is listed 2 inches shorter than he is. And I know they've been speaking about his leadership in that room, Sal. And for him, I don't remember that even as a rookie for Trey White. He is a shorter corner, and, I don't know, he's made a pretty good career not getting bodied by bigger receivers as often as you would think of a guy who's not really that tall.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, who was the guy who got Man, you got Jeremy. Who is the guy? Maybe Joe, you know too. Who would get beat a lot by the taller receivers, and we couldn't well, I mean, that happened to Levi Wallace, and he was actually a little taller, wasn't he? Levi Wallace seemed like he was a little bit taller from what I remember, right? I think a lot of times it's kind of understanding leverage, understanding angles. But there was a guy in the mid 2000s that would every time. I mean,
Terrence McGee was a smaller corner.
I'm thinking of maybe you're thinking of someone different, but I always remember McKelvin, Leotis McKelvin.
It was Leotis McKelvin. I think you're right. I kept thinking of it.
He would always be in position, and it would always be a catch.
Yeah.
Yes, that was it. Leotis McKelvin, exactly. I think Leotis McKelvin always seemed like he was right there and couldn't make the play. But for him, the issue was, for me, I always noticed, from what I remember, he just didn't turn around enough. He didn't see the ball enough. He didn't get to the ball until late. That's not what I see with Max Hairston.
Yeah.
I think Max Hairston just has to understand leverage against bigger guys. That's all. Okay. I'm not concerned about it as I watch him. I don't want to paint that picture. What I want to say is he's learning how to deal with guys that are bigger and faster and stronger than most guys he dealt with in college. That's all. And I think that's just got to come with reps. And I like yesterday, the one I remember from Tyrell Shavers, I'm telling you guys, he's in perfect position across the middle. He swipes his arm, and I think everybody in the defense thought he knocked it out. And then here comes Shavers with the ball, and everybody's like, oh, how did he catch that ball? Maybe that happens against any DB, right? But, I mean, that's just the kind of thing where, okay, now you understand. Those are the little tiny margins that make a difference, I think, at this level compared to the college level.
Sal, speaking of the bigger-bodied receivers, a week ago at camp, at mini camp or OTAs, it was about Keon Coleman and how he looked. And yesterday, he spoke a lot about what he needs to do. So kind of maybe a look into the preparation and mentally how he's approaching this season. Coleman had a lot to say yesterday.
He talked about, he was very self-aware yesterday. He's very self-critical yesterday, right? He said, you really want to know what I thought? I thought it looked like blank, right? What he said. When we could play the match game and, do that. But anyway, or whatever you want to call it, we used to play with Shope. And, he was very critical of himself and how he wants to really be very cognizant of his approach, his routes, his everything, his body, everything that goes into it, being a professional for sure. I think there's no doubt that Keon Coleman heard the noise, right, from Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. But I'm going to tell everybody, nothing that they said to us, they didn't say to him, right? It's not like Sean McDermott or Brandon Beane came out at the end of the year, told the media what they want from Keon Coleman, didn't see from Keon Coleman, and just wanted to make sure Keon Coleman heard it that way. They told him, hey, this is what exit interviews are about. Hey, you're a young player. This is what we need from you. This is what didn't happen. This is what did happen. This is what we need from you going forward. And I think, to Keon Coleman's credit yesterday, he sounded like he was very kind of self-aware, self-critical, understanding, didn't push back. And, I think that he understands what he needs to do to take that next step in year two.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to watch. And are you watching Coleman and Benford go head to head here? When you're mentioning Shavers and Hairston, what are we seeing from Coleman in man coverage? Because a lot of this, when it comes to these drills, is going to be man on man, right? And that's not always been Coleman's strength. So while practice is practice, you're probably getting a really good look and a really good opportunity for him to work specifically on that part of his game.
Yeah, now, in these settings, they can't do one-on-one. We haven't seen that. I don't think they're allowed to do one-on-one wide receiver DB. And if they have, we haven't seen any drills like that. You know how sometimes they just line up and you see it? And at camp, right, guys? Mm-hmm. You love watching those one-on-ones. We haven't seen that specifically, each guy against each other. I would say there have been times where I think Keon Coleman, he looks like he's run a really good route, and then maybe and yet he's caught the ball. And there's been a couple of times where I think he's got to do a better job of making sure he secures the ball. Yesterday was one of them where, and I'll give credit. This is one of those deals where do you put it on Keon or do you put it on Dane Jackson? He runs a route, he's over the middle. Dane Jackson makes a nice break on the ball. As Keon has it in his hands and he's securing it, Dane knocks it right out of his hands, swipes it down. It's a good veteran play by a DB. If you're Keon Coleman, you got to grab that thing, you got to put it and tuck it away, right? I mean, those are, again, the little things. These are younger players. This is why battles are great, and you can have two different perspectives, and you can have someone listen to me or somebody who's there watching, another media member even observing, going, man, that's a great play by Dane Jackson. You can have another person say, man, Keon's got to do a better job of hold on to that ball, right? It's competing. It's what it is, and I think those are the things again that he's going to have to learn, but. I like his route running. I like his, I'll call it intentionality, Jeremy. I think that's what I see from him. When I watch him run early on in practice, he's with Adam Henry and the rest of the wide receivers. it's not that you didn't see this last year necessarily, but knowing everything has been said about him, knowing what we know about him and where they want him to go, like I'm watching a little bit of his intentionality, and it feels like he's definitely trying to do certain things out there that these practices are for.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. You can read his recap of yesterday at mandatory minicamp at WGR550.com. Sal, any final thoughts just to wrap? We got to get going, but if there's something we missed?
Real quickly, Josh Allen was very hot yesterday early on. I didn't see a ball hit the ground in 7-on-7 after throwing a few picks the day before. Defense then started to stem a little bit the other way, and the highlight was a Tre'Davious White pick 6. It really came, though, off a Khalil Shakir slip. Then he kind of reached up to try to grab the ball because he slipped, you know what I mean? And then he knocked it up in the air. There's Trey White, goes back the other way for a pick 6. So kind of a good back and forth right there yesterday.
All right, very good. Thanks, Sal.
You got it.
Sal Capaccio. We'll get a break in. Larry, if you can stick with us, we'll get to your phone call, 803-0550. If you want to jump on, talk a little bit about Keon Coleman today and, the expectation for him, what the Bills really need out of him. So if you want to pop on about that, we're happy to chat with you.